Howdy folks, Timber Drifter here. So I'm out exploring today. I'm exploring a place I haven't been to in at least 10 years. And it's stretching my memory a little bit. I lived here when I was in high school on this piece of property. I think that was about 18 years ago. I have a hard time remembering. Anyway, lived out here for I think most of a year in a big old 2-story farmhouse. It looked like just a big square building block. And it's all gone now. It washed out and was torn down after the big flood of '07 here. The Verdigris River is about 1.5 miles that way, which is west. And it's just been quite a treat to be here today. And hopefully I'll come back tomorrow and I have a special video in mind if I'm able to do it. This was the first place I ever smoked a pipe. Not right in this spot, but it's about I don't know, maybe a 1/4 mile that way on the other side of this hill. And I walked in that area today. I've been looking for a couple of things up here. I put a stone axe head in the crotch of a small oak and tied the top of it together. I had read that the natives used to make axes that way. You come back and 5 or 10 years when the wood has grown together and cut it off and you've got an axe. And when I was here 10 years ago, that's what I was looking for, and I'm looking for it again, but I'm in the area that I'm pretty sure where it was, and I haven't found it, so I probably won't. Another thing I was looking for was a little cabin that I built. And this was just, driving logs into the ground about that big around, stockade style, and kind of a lean-to roof over it, and I had a big standing stone in front of it for a fire reflector. I haven't found that either. One other thing that I was looking for, which I did find, the native folks that lived in this area were the Osage tribe. And there were some people before them that they tell stories about too. But they had a camp not far from where I'm at right now, down by the river. And there's a lot of hickories and oaks and walnuts all in these woods here. And back further on the back side of that hill, there's a lot of very mature trees. But when I lived here, I found a stone, which the edge of this hillside, all the way around it, is rimrock like this. And toward the top of the hill, there's just a whole bunch of standing stones. But there's a spot there. This is all grown over with moss now, but there's probably 20 divots of different sizes in the stone, all roughly in a line. And there are some oblong stones up there, and that was an area where the natives cracked nuts. They'd gather a whole bunch of nuts and crack them there for the nut meat. And I'm not going to show you that spot because I'm keeping all that stuff to myself. But this is an area right here where there's a lot of separation in the stone on the edge of this hill, and it looks like this for 150 yards on either side of here. And I always called this the canyons because that's what it's like. So the other thing about this spot is water runs down from this hill into several points along here and washes down into a natural basin at the bottom of it. We're not going to have time to make it down there. But yeah, So I've got to do a little bit of climbing to get down in here, so I'm going to pause the camera. I'm going to be right back with you. Alright, so what you're seeing over my shoulder there is the stock of my .22 rifle down in the pocket of my backpack. So let's drop down in there. Now, I called this the canyons when I was living here, when I was in high school, but they're pretty shallow canyons, but still kind of exciting for this area. Some of these rock formations are pretty neat. And there's various directions you can go. The ground is all leaf litter, you can probably see that. Some of the spots are pretty deep. I have to be a little careful how I step. I used to have a camp right on the other side of that tree. No evidence is left of it. It's all been washed away. And here's kind of a neat spot. See, it rained last night. Hole in the rock where the water runs out. Also, some of this rock is loose. It's always changing. This is the kind of place where you can see history right here. That's a big shard of rock. It's almost sharp enough to cut yourself on. So, the trees that are growing out of this rock sometimes break pieces off. And what's inside the rocks, what's below the polished surface, it's just completely full of bones, little bones, fish bones, various kinds of clam shells and things like that. And history's just barely under the surface here. Got a little tangle up brush to balance on here. There's also little pockets in the stones, some of the tops of the stones that hold water. Up that way is another little canyon that branches off and heads that way. It's not as deep as this one. I really love it here. Just a gorgeous place. And like everywhere here, there's a barbed wire sticking out of the ground and sticking out of trees here and there, so you have to be careful. So there's a box turtle shell up on top of some just super flat rock that's a little mounded up so it always stays dry off over that way. And when I lived here all those years ago, there was just a little bit of moss on that shell. And it was bleached white with a little bit of moss, and now there's a light coating of moss over the whole thing that joins with the rock almost. It's curious to me, as I've never seen that before. See if I can hold this up. Get it out of the shadow. There's an example of some of the stuff that's in the stones here. It's probably not going to focus on it, but you get an idea. Some of them have very, very clear seashells, the negative of it, the imprint of it, and also the seashell itself in the rock. This is just that kind of place where history is right on the surface. Evidence of all the humans that have lived here. That old camp down there used to just be chock full of various pieces of knapped flint, chert, but a lot of that's been hunted out of there. So now it takes a pretty steep climb down a hill. The sun's probably washing that out pretty good, but down there is a natural catchment pond. Yeah, I sure spent a whole lot of days and evenings after school, parts of a summer exploring this place. I pretty much always had a tomahawk in the back of my belt in those days. And I had an old single action .22 revolver that was ever present. Usually a Bowie knife too. Out here wandering around, shooting squirrels and learning how to shoot in general. I already had quite a bit of instruction shooting a handgun, but after I acquired that one, I learned a lot on my own. It had a broken rear sight, so you never do real precise aiming. Just kind of had to learn to point shoot with it, and you do that with a few thousand rounds and you get pretty good at it. So all those memories are tied together. This is one of the places that really stands out as one of my favorite places I've ever lived. And it was such a short time, really. But the memories are quite clear. And I think it was also a time of a lot of growth for me. I was learning a lot of things. I was doing reenactments and starting to figure out primitive skills, fire making and napping, flint and all that stuff, as well as learning wild edibles. I think I probably ate my first wild edibles out here, and if I remember correctly, it was prickly pear cactus pads. Yeah, learning about herbal medicine too. I acquired some books at that time, and I remember trying to treat poison ivy with, or alleviate the itching of poison ivy with plantain leaves, the small plant, not the banana-like thing. Anyway, this place just really holds my heart in a way. And it's just like this, like what you're seeing behind me, a rocky ledge along the top of a hill for quite a long way. I'm just working my way down this little dry water course here. The other thing about this area is this is the best time of year to be out wandering around because this is Copperhead Central here. A lot of snakes. The underbrush is normally so thick it's difficult to even wade through it, and it's all full of blackberry and sweetbriar. You can probably hear them snagging on my pants here and there as I walk through. But yeah, the thing that sticks out to me is I remember a whole lot of times making my way back to the house in the dark with the cold air coming in or in the rain, and just not even wanting to go home really because I wasn't done. I hadn't explored enough. But I was real secretive in those days. I used to had my little camps up here where I'd come and make a fire and have a change of clothes and a stash of food. There goes a rabbit. You're safe for me today, fella. I already put my rifle away. But yeah, smoking my pipe and hanging out in my little camps, going on hikes. Not much has really changed. I'm still pretty much playing the same games, but my head's all full of different stuff these days. Well, I think we'll stop right here before I enter back into this other canyon here. Got quite a ways to walk to get back to the truck, so I think I'll put the camera away and get the rifle back out. Anyway, y'all take care. I hope you have a chance to get outside, do a little walking.